First of all, let me just make this very clear. I'm not here to rant about this movie. In fact, I kind of really like Mickey 17. There, I said it. Those of you who hated the movie and thought it wasn't very good, sue me. I thought this movie was pretty solid. I thought it was a fun time at the movies. But I'm going to talk about part of my experience just watching the movie. First, I'm going to give my thoughts on the movie overall because that's probably why you clicked on the video in the first place. But there is something I do want to talk about that is kind of important to me, in all honesty, that I feel like in general that people should hear. So first of all, I feel like this movie, so obviously Bong Joon-ho, the director of this movie, he did Parasite, the movie that won the Oscar back in 2019, and he also did, another sci-fi movie, Snowpiercer, which was also pretty good. He also did The Host, Memories of a Murder, and he's made some really good films, in my opinion. I feel like he's a really solid director. That being said, I feel like this is the movie where it's not his strongest, but I still really liked it. I do also feel like the reason why people are kind of crapping and dunking on it is the fact that, Bong Joon-ho, he really just, he set the bar high on himself with Parasite, so that's partly why I feel like a lot of my criticisms and a lot of other people's criticisms with this movie is because, well, Parasite was so good that, this movie pales in comparison. But I really liked the film. I mean, I felt like the messaging was, as subtle as a brick to the face. I mean, down to the point where Mark Ruffalo, despite seeing him have fun with this role, you can clearly tell he is doing an impersonation of a political figure. And I've read that this movie was supposed to come out last year, and it got delayed several times before releasing this year, and you can kind of tell that this movie was supposed to release last year, and they had a different idea of what the election was going to look like. So you do get that political aspirations here, which can make the movie, a bit of a hit or a miss, depending on who you ask. Now, with that being said, this movie was far from a miss for me. I really liked this movie. I felt like, visually speaking, this movie knocked it out of the park. Robert Pattinson obviously knocked it out of the park. I really love the films he's been doing recently. Just been really kind of, doing his own thing and just kind of doing these random movie roles that really, in my opinion, suit him. He does a fantastic job here. And, Toni Collette, for as very little as she's given in this movie, she does a good job. Again, visually, the film just looks spectacular. I like the creature designs, the sound design for them, specifically near the ending. You go from, because throughout the movie, I'm going to admit, the creatures, which they dub creepers, are actually admittedly pretty cute, but then somewhere, well, in the final act, they somehow make them intimidating, which is really cool. And they are, I want to say uniquely designed. It's an alien design that's pretty cool looking. I don't want to spoil exactly what they look like. To quote Toni Collette's character, she said it looks like a croissant dipped in shit, which, got a decent chuckle out of me in the theater, but that's besides the point. So, visually speaking, the movie knocks it out of the park. The visual effects are really cool. At times they can be kind of misses. The acting is, for the most part, pretty good. Again, Mark Ruffalo doing an impression of, a political figure. You can kind of tell. And it can be distracting at times, but I had a good laugh with the film. I mean, it was fine. It didn't really bother me. I'm not into politics because it just, in my humble opinion, I just don't care too much about it. It just, people are so focused on politics these days that it just divides people, I feel like. And yeah, I know in my age range, I should probably be caring about my future, but honestly, it's just something I don't want to get into in my life. I just want to live my life and, it's whatever. I'm not trying to make this political by any means, Jesus Christ. So, let's get into the positives. Or more of the positives, I should say. The story, for what it is, it's okay. And it's Bong Joon-ho's, first fully English feature film, which is at times really cool, but it is just another one of those things where I feel like this movie could have done a little bit more with its story. I feel like there was a lack of explanation with certain things that is kind of disappointing. I feel like, specifically near the end, I feel like the movie, either there was supposed to be a director's cut or an extended cut. I just feel like the ending just felt so rushed, especially near the final battle. Like, this movie builds up to something big and grand. I saw this movie on IMAX, which I will get later into the conclusion pretty soon. But I saw this movie in IMAX, and it was made for it. It was really cool to see this in my IMAX. I really enjoyed it. And I could be pretty biased when it comes to, my enjoyment of a movie. But in all honesty, I still like the movie, even if I didn't see it in IMAX. So, and this movie builds up to something, but so many things happen so quickly. Like, at one point, a character randomly just starts communicating with Robert Pattinson's character and starts talking about like the creature's communication, and then literally minutes later she literally has a communicator that can actually talk to the creatures. And I literally just went like, oh, she literally just created it like that, like with no any type of like misfires or anything. There wasn't any type of this movie just plows right through the ending, and it builds to something you'd think there'd be like a big scale battle, but the movie kind of keeps things somewhat small in the battle, but it's still kind of cool and fun in a way. And there are some there were some really good ideas with this, especially with the technology given. And I feel like that's where this movie is underwhelming in a way, because this movie has a lot of great ideas and a lot, again, with the technology of the cloning machine. The founder, I don't want to spoil it too much, or one of the creators of it, turns out was a serial killer. And, they even asked all these questions like, oh, since he cloned himself, who's responsible? They ask all these really kind of thought-provoking questions, but they get, just touched upon. So this movie kind of does that a lot. It really plows through. And Robert Pattinson's girlfriend in this, hell, I forgot her name in this. She's not given much to do, and yeah, it's disappointing where there is so much set up here. There's so many characters, so many ideas, and yet not all of it is explored. And I feel like this movie is very underbaked in that regard, but still pretty good. It's still a solid sci-fi film in my opinion. I really liked it. Some people won't. They might find the political and themes very over the top, and yes, they are definitely dialed up to an 11. So if you were going in just for a fun sci-fi feature to escape the real world, you're going to be basically getting the real world with this movie. And yeah, but with that being said, I enjoyed it. It's a fun film. You want to watch it, go watch it. I recommend it, but it's up to you. Anyway, let me get into this other thing I want to talk about. Now, when I publish this, those of you who even made it this far in this video, because I'm debating about using clips, because I just want to get this video out there. I might use clips, I might not, but I'll determine that as I'm editing this. But the big thing I wanted to talk about, and I feel like this was the movie I wanted to both review, but also talk about this, because this happened during my screening. So like I said, I saw this movie in IMAX, and for IMAX movies, they are expensive. Tickets on average, especially in my town, they go for about 18, sometimes $19 per person. Me and my girlfriend, we literally went to go see this movie, and it cost us $40 each. Worth it, in my opinion. And I've been saving up, and I try to tend to be smart with my money. But it's a fun experience overall. And not a whole lot of people have access to an IMAX cinema. Now, with that being said, IMAX is still a cinema. And if you were going to go to a cinema, you would expect theater etiquette, right? And God forbid, the group of girls that were sitting kind of off to the side of us If you happen to be catching this video, please, I am just going to have to warn you, do not ever pull out your phone and talk about boys in a crowded theater and going on Snapchat every 2 seconds, texting with your brightness fully up, because that shit is annoying. I'm sorry, pardon my French here. I'm going to start ranting for a bit because this bothers me. I don't want to come across as like a pretentious movie nerd that just wants, I get it. There are assholes in the real world. There are going to be people that are going to ruin your overall experience. And even though they didn't necessarily ruin my experience with this movie, I still thoroughly enjoyed it. And it didn't really affect my viewing. It affected my viewing experience. The last hour and a half of this movie was affected because of these girls. But I just feel like this is just a great time to just mention, if you're going to a movie, it is just courteous to put away your phone. I mean, this is just something that you should just teach your kids, that I was taught as a kid from day one I went to a theater. You do not talk during a movie. If you're gonna talk, whisper, or even a very quiet talk. Don't interrupt, don't disrupt. If there's a phone call that you are expecting, go outside and answer it. If you want to text your boyfriend, go ahead. But do not, for the love of God, pull out your phone in the middle of the movie when something is interesting is happening and a lot of people are trying to stay invested, because you just gotta pull out your freaking phone and just see if he commented after he liked your fucking photo. I am so sorry about my language, but I am sorry. I cannot stand people, particularly these girls in the theater. It really irked me, the fact that the last 90 minutes of this movie, they were on their phones. They were chatting. They were on Snapchat. They were having whole ass conversations. And I mean, this pissed me off. This really irked me. I didn't want to go full-blown Karen. I didn't want to do anything. I was just kind of like, you know what? I'm going to take it up the tailpipe. I'm going to enjoy, sit, and watch the movie. I'm probably going to be talking about this more than I actually talked about the movie. But it's still something that is, it's special for me. Going to the movies is a very special experience. It's a fun experience. When you go with people that you enjoy going with, it's a very fun experience. Same thing happened a couple years ago with Oppenheimer in IMAX. You don't pull out your phone in full brightness when you're watching a movie, and especially in this format. I'm just going to say it. These girls that probably had the, viewer retention of a freaking, fetus at this point. I mean, you are in an IMAX theater. IMAX does not exist in a whole lot of towns. We are lucky to have one in my state, in my town. Not state, excuse me, in my town. And the fact that they were actively just carrying on these conversations on their phones, not full brightness, but bright enough to be distracting. It's ridiculous. You shouldn't be doing this. I'm just going to say it. You shouldn't be doing this. Regardless of the world we live in, you have rights, but it's just not polite. You should not be doing this in a theater. It is very disrespectful, and you are in an IMAX screen and they literally advertise, do not pull out your phone. Please don't be in a disturbance on a 50-foot screen. And what do? They be a disturbance during the last 90 minutes of this movie, which really, really frustrated me. And to the girls that even remotely somehow come across as my video, I really pray that one of these days, either you get a good lesson coming towards you, and someone, much more meaner than I could ever be, somehow cuts you out and traumatizes you in a way that prevents you from texting on your phone. I hope that lesson comes, but at the same time, I don't want that. I want people to go to the movies. If you're going to talk, whisper. If you're going to answer your phone, go outside. Be courteous. Hell, I've been guilty of checking my phone before. But you know what I do? I briefly check it. I always put my phone on Do Not Disturb, and I always dim it. I keep it as dim as I possibly could. That's it. But yeah, I just wanted to rant about this because this was something that really, really bothered me. And especially for me as a person that really likes going to the movies, it's sad, really, that, viewer retention at this point is dead. And I support movie theaters. I want movie theaters to stay in business. I'm not talking about just IMAX in general. I'm talking about theaters in general. It's fun to go to the movies. But girls like that, especially in the IMAX theater, makes me not want to go. I mean, I want to go see another movie. But I'm debating about seeing it because I live in the same town as, that group of girls that could be very well in that auditorium. So, again, it's frustrating. It's just something I want to rant about. Give me your thoughts down below. I'm sure not a whole lot of people, I'm pretty much just preaching to the choir, but this is just something I really just need to shout out specifically because it really did bother me. Like I said, I'm talking about this more than I talked about the movie, but it's still something that's important to me. And I feel like it's just a good time to mention that if you do go to the movies, don't be that guy. Because all I'm going to say is what I'm saying in my head is a lot worse than what I can say out loud. Anyway, take it easy, everyone. Sorry that this review is way too long, and by review, I mean me ranting for about 8 minutes and me talking about a movie for 6 minutes. Anyway, that's about it. Take it easy, everyone. I'll try and get some more reviews out as soon as I can, but that's about it. See ya.